time once again to slip into your camo, grab your bow, and join us out in the field for another episode of the Up North Journal, presented by PSE Archery. The Up North Journal crew is knocked and ready to rock for another exciting adventure. So let's step outside and hit the trail.
This episode of the Up North Journal podcast is brought to you by PSE Archery,
Deer Camp Coffee,
Buck Baits,
JPO Game Calls,
The Island Armory,
Packer Max,
Sunrise Archery,
and C3 Better the Hunt Technology.
Welcome back to another episode of the Up North Journal, everybody. Host Mike Adams, sitting in a chilly cabin tonight here in mid-Michigan, 52 glorious degrees, raining, with none other than Dan DeFall.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to a rainy Michigan Wednesday evening, live in the cabin. That's right, folks. It's raining outside. Have no fear, it's Michigan. 2 days, it'll be 90.
Yeah, it'll change. Give it time.
Mark Allen says, thanks for the shout-out.
Yeah,
Hey,
absolutely.
whenever you're spying on Mike Adams, it's always good to shout out.
Wow, $1,500 to fill up.
Oh,
Wow. Derek Vaughn picked up a few more shrooms tonight after the rain. There you go.
stay tuned. We've got a shroom hunter on.
That's right. We're going to be talking about mushroom hunting in the second half of the show tonight.
Right, exactly.
So, all right. Well,
Let's
get with it and let's help the people who help us.
Absolutely, folks. I tell you what, once again, if you haven't been down to Sterling Heights to the brick and mortar store for deer camp, you got to get there. But you can also check out buckbaits.com to check out the latest stuff that they got at Buck Baits. Whether you're talking hunting, a call, or some minerals or anything, go over there to buckbaits.com. Check it out. Get 20% off your order if you use the promo code UNJ20.
There you go.
Packer Max. Never too late to go talk to Lincoln Rowan about that Packer Max. If you want $25 off your order, use the promo code UNJ25 at packermax.com.
Speaking of, remind me after the show. I need to talk to you about that.
All right. I tell you what, JPO Game Calls, whether you're talking turkey call, the
Omni Series?
Omni Series, squirrel calls, he's got them. Go check out the website, jpogamecalls.com. UNJ10 gets 10% off your order. Natalie at theislandarmory.com. I can't say much more than how wonderful they are to work with them. Go check out their website. They're continuously adding on the front page what they have in stock, and in the website they can order. And if you want 10% off your order, use UNJ10 for 10% off your order at theislandarmory.com. Last but not least, Deer Camp Coffee. Like I said, get to the brick and mortar store, try some nitro brew or cold brew that he has, or pick up some Deer Camp coffee, maybe some UNJ blend, right? And if you use the promo code UNJ10 at deercampcoffee.com, you get 10% off your order. I tell you what, that would be kind of nice right now.
It would be.
Right?
It's actually, I'm glad we got coffee tonight, tell you the truth.
Exactly.
Instead of cold brew.
And I tell you what, it is actually warmer in the UP than it is down here in the lower.
By a lot.
By 10 degrees. It is 62 and sunny up in Newberry. Where? Up at Cedars. They have Deer Camp Coffee and a great pizza, and we are carried on 123 FM up there. So get up there, enjoy the UP, and enjoy some pizza and coffee.
There you go.
All right.
Well, what do you say? Will you get right into it tonight?
Well, there's nothing better than having on somebody that has a success story.
I like talking about
couple.
success.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. None other than Mr. Mark Coleman, all the way from Indiana. Mark, what is going on tonight?
Another beautiful evening. Other than, like you said, the weather could be a little better.
A little bit. What's it like down there?
Right now, it's high 50s and damp and just mist and rain.
Okay.
Overcast, yeah. Just, I don't know. It's the kind of day I'd like to be in the woods.
Yeah.
But it's not the kind of day you want to be driving on the road.
You know, speaking of that, I was heading to work out to our transmitter site, which is in the opposite direction of where I normally drive, but it's out in the middle of nowhere. And I'm driving down the road, getting close to it, and there's a patch of woods behind our transmitter and a farm field behind that. And at 9:30 this morning, there's about 20 birds in that corn, or in the farm field, right up against the edge of the woods. A couple toms strutting. It was beautiful.
Wow.
Right?
Go figure.
It's 61 degrees in Rockford, Illinois, where Ron Moses.
61 degrees.
Yep.
That's kind of chilly down there too.
Right.
Well, it's the same in Illinois as it is in the UP.
Illinois, Indiana, and
Wow.
we're all kind of the same weather pattern.
Yeah. Let's get this thing out of here, man.
I know, right?
I'm ready for some
Let's
more
get to
warm
the
weather.
90s in 2 days.
Right.
Mr. Mark Coleman, a successful turkey hunt.
Yes, sir. I'll say successful in the fact that I've never killed a turkey in 3 years and was able to do it all within like 5 minutes Just, I don't know, did it on my own. Typically I have someone with me calling, but things didn't work out. But I guess it wasn't really a lone. I mean, I was on the phone with my mom, of all people, on speakerphone and calling at the same time. And this Tom just comes out of the woods, and I'm like, Mom, I gotta go. Got a bird shoot.
Now
So, pretty well.
every Tuesday you post Trail Cam Tuesdays over on your Facebook page, and you've got pictures of toms and other various animals that are roaming the farm. Now, you knew you were going after some certain birds, correct? You knew that they were there.
Right. So I try to post Trail Cam Tuesday when I pull trail cam cards. I don't make it to the farm every weekend, but when I do, I try to pull those cards. Spend a little bit of time reviewing them, get them, dressed up a little bit and put them out there on a Tuesday. Just sounds better Trail Cam Tuesday than it does, Trail Cam Monday. But, it's a 60-acre farm. 10 of it's ag. The rest of it's all woods. And just about every critter under the sun lives in that space somewhere. So I think I'm running 10 cameras, 2 cell cameras. And if they're on the property somewhere, I'm typically going to find them.
How many turkeys do you think you got out on the property? Do you have an idea?
I would say we probably have close to 20.
One less now.
19.
Right.
We weren't seeing a lot of toms. We were seeing a lot of hens. And then, as turkey season to me comes in about 3 weeks too late in Indiana. This year it came in April 27th. And, toms have been strutting since the end of March. But I guess part of the reason is to make sure that, there's a population of turkeys next year. So we want to allow those hens to be, to get mated and to have those eggs and all that. But it just seems like in Indiana, everyone else is already hunting turkeys, and we're sitting here waiting to hit the green light to go so we can get out there. And it's like, are there going to be any toms left strutting? Well, yeah, there's still plenty of toms out there strutting. Season just ended, actually, Sunday, I believe, 15th.
So you got yours opening day.
Opening day.
So,
yeah.
So leading up to that, before that, I know you like we talked about, you've seen them on trail cameras. 19 birds now. You were posting a lot of pictures of yotes. Did you have any concerns that maybe the yotes had moved in and pushed the turkeys away?
I was concerned about that because last year this time I think it was at least 3 adults, and then a few weeks later I had one adult female that had pups already. And then a couple months after that, I saw all 6 of them on one trail camera. And having a pack of 6 running around on a small property like that, there's not too many places they can hide. They're going to find something to eat. And then we have bobcats. We have at least 3 bobcats on the property. So between the yotes, the bobcats, and the aerial assault from some of the birds, turkeys got to try real hard to survive in that space.
Well, and then they got to fit in between the raccoons, possums that like
the skunks
that like to steal the nest egg. So
yeah,
it's not easy on them.
And there's many trail cam photos that I don't post that are of raccoons and possums. Occasionally there's raccoon and deer in the same photo, but the raccoons are thick, and I wish trapping prices would go up and I could probably eliminate a few of those.
Right, exactly, and that's been an issue for years with the fur prices coming way down.
Fur prices fell, I don't know, back 2008, 2000. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, it was 2013, 2012, somewhere in there. The bottom fell out, and that was the last year that I trapped.
Right,
I haven't trapped since then. So since 2012, fall of 12.
So that opening.
I'm kind of excited about this turkey that I shot because where it came out, I thought it came out right in front of one of my trail cameras. My brother called my attention to it. He said, "I think you probably got a picture of this turkey about 2 or 3 minutes before he showed up in the field." So I pulled trail cam cards that night, took them home. I do have one of those low-down viewers, but I didn't have it with me. So I had to bring them home, put them on the computer. Unfortunately, the turkey came out about 50 yards down from where my trail camera was at. So I didn't get a pre-photo of him, even though I did take a couple of photos as he was coming across the field. It would have been nice to have him on the trail camera to kind of timestamp that.
Yeah, we were showing a few of those here as you were talking about it a little bit. The one we got up now is from the blind. You're in the blind. Obviously, it looks like you're hunting from a raised platform. And you got the bird, you got a decoy out in front, and then you got the bird in behind coming in.
Yeah. So, the way this hunt came together was just by pure luck, and I'll be the first to admit it. I got down there that morning about 9. I went out to what we call the Taj Mahal, which is my brother and I built this 16-foot elevated blind. It's an 8x8 at the bottom. It's an 8x8 at the top. And I got back there about 10 o'clock, sat there for about an hour and a half, only saw a hen come out about 200 yards away. And I was like, she's just going to hang out back there. She really don't care about these decoys that I got set up. So I got out of the blind, went and did some mowing, checked trail cameras, walked around looking for mushrooms to see where the season was at. And then when I got back into that blind about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, that's when I was sitting there, and Mom calls me at 5:40, 5:45, somewhere in there. And I'm holding the cell phone in one hand, and I'm holding my turkey call in the other hand, calling at the same time. And just out of the corner of my eye, I saw something move in the field about, 150 yards away. And that he just come right out to the field, never made a sound. And once he saw those decoys, he started coming straight in. So what do? Instead of thinking, get ready for the shot, I grab my cell phone. I'm like, I'm going to capture a couple of photos of this because I'm probably not going to get a chance to kill this bird. So I snap a photo of him on his way in. Then I snap a photo of him as he goes full strut for like 3 seconds. And then he comes in a little closer, and he's cutting that distance from like 150 to 100 to 75. And when he gets about 50 yards away, I'm like, oh, crap, put the phone down, dude, and grab a crossbow.
So now, were you calling at any point, or were you just letting him come to the decoys?
Up to the point that I saw him, I was talking to my mom on the cell phone on speakerphone and calling at the same time. But as soon as I saw him, I put my call down, got off the phone with Mom, and then I turned to see if he was going to come towards me, if he was going to go on north. And he didn't really commit to any direction, so I hit the call a couple more times. Then he kind of perked up and was like, hey, there's something down here I need to check out. And then he started coming straight on a string there, just, slowly walking towards the decoys. So I just quit calling. I was like, okay, I'm just going to take a couple, 3 pictures, capture the moment. And then when he gets about 50 yards, that's when it's going to get serious. And he stopped at about 40 yards. So I just grabbed the call and just gently bumped it a couple more times. And then he was fully committed. And I thought, if you get to 30 yards, I'm going to put a crosshair on you and see what I can do.
Now, speaking of calls, Tammy's asking, were you using a box call, slate call, mouth call? What kind of call were you using?
I'm using this here. I guess it's called a box call. Picked that up at the Indy Deer Turkey Expo off of a gentleman that I knew from Michigan named Greg Abbas. And I thought, well, I'm new to this. Really don't. I played with mouth calls before. Wasn't real sure what I was doing other than just, trying to keep from swallowing that darn thing. So this was pretty easy. Just pick it up, push the button, and it worked. I mean, he heard that, come out of the woods, come out the field, start checking things out. Once he saw the decoys, I think he was 100% committed to just coming down there and, introducing himself.
Did he ever shy away? Did he ever get to a point where the decoys, he's like, this doesn't look right?
Not because of the decoys. When he got about 30 yards, I decided to go ahead and pull that crossbow up. Of course, I'm in an elevated blind, and the wall is about 2 foot high, so it's about a 10-foot height that I'm sitting in a chair. So when I reached forward and I grabbed that crossbow and I brought it up to my shoulder, at that point, he was about 30 yards, and he stopped me, looked right at me. And I thought, it's over. And he turned and he started to walk away. He took about 5 or 6 steps away. Still wasn't sure, but he just knew something wasn't right. So I reached over and I bumped that call a couple more times, and he turned back around. But this time he was very cautious, but he was wanting to get close to those decoys, but he also knew something wasn't right up there in the upstairs. And I was like, okay, if he gets to this one little weed out there, I think that's about a 20-yard shot. And if I can get him to turn broadside right there, I'm gonna drop him. And I got lucky. I'll say that. People talk about shooting him in the head.
Mm-hmm.
If they're facing you, shoot him in the beard. If they're facing away from you, shoot him in the butthole. All those things. But a good friend of mine, David Holder from Ray's Hunting, he's a big advocate of shooting him in the shiny spot.
Shoot him in the shiny spot. Yep.
And if you do that, you take their legs out. And if you take their legs out, they can't fly because they have to have their legs under them to get enough speed to get their wings up and to fly off. So you may not kill them immediately, but they're not going to fly away. You're going to be able to follow them through the woods on the ground. Sure enough, I knew I didn't have much of a window. And he's turned at 22 yards. He turned broadside. And as soon as he did, the crosshair found that shiny spot. I just pulled trigger. And I heard that thump. And he rolled. And then the feathers just started coming off of his belly. Just these little feathers everywhere. He went about 15 feet and then just went completely still. And I was just in shock. I'm like, this just happened. I was on the phone with my mom 5 minutes ago. I just killed the first turkey ever, and it was a nice one. Now what do? I get my phone out and start taking pictures again.
Well, I tell you what. Okay, we got the bird on the ground. So before you get up to the bird here, let's take our first break. And when we come back, I want to talk about the afterwards of what it was like and all that about going through all that process and those thoughts and emotions at that point.
Absolutely, and we got some questions lined up.
So we're going to step outside, take our first break. We'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has reinvented the way you buy bows.
From now on, you can make the most educated decision possible.
By basing your bow choice specifically on your shooting needs and goals.
All you need to do is ask yourself, what kind of shooter am I? What do I want to achieve?
PSE will help find the right category for you.
So, what kind of shooter are you?
Find out at psearchery.com.
Welcome back. Talking turkey hunting. We got a bird on the ground with Mark Coleman right now. But the thing we need to do is figure out, okay, so you pulled the trigger on the crossbow, the bolt went flying, you got the bird down, he flopped around for a second, and he's done. What's going through your head at this point? It's your first bird.
One, I just was like, I've been 3 years trying to get a chance to even shoot a bird, and now it's all over just this quick. And then I'm also going, that bird didn't leave the field. It's right there. So it's no mystery. I know I just killed a bird. And then it dawns on me, it's like, okay, I've never killed a bird. What do I do next? Well, first I called Mom back because I told her I would, because I kind of interrupted my call with a bird coming in the field, and let her know. And then it was 5:50 p.m. in the evening. So my brother, he works till 6 p.m. And he's always the guy right there that's, helping me play by play, make sure we're doing everything we need to be doing. So since he wasn't there for the moment, I really wanted him to experience some of this because we were going to hunt the next morning together. He didn't even know I was down there hunting the first day of season. He thought I was going to wait till Thursday morning with him, but I went ahead and did it anyway. And so then I'm like, okay, it's about 70 degrees out. Do I need to go over and pick the bird up? Do I just leave it lay? All these things going through my mind. What's the next steps? I'm like, all right, well, I'll wait till 6:05. I'll call him when he gets to his truck. He'll answer his phone. And I'm like, hey, Mike, you headed home? He's like, yeah. I'm like, can you come out to the farm? And he could tell in my voice that something wasn't right. And he thought something had happened, whether I hurt myself with the walk behind DR trimmer, whether I got the truck stuck. He knew something was up. And I'm like, he's like, you okay? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, did you have the truck stuck? And I'm like, no. It's like, I just killed a bird. I just killed Tom. He's like, oh, okay, well, I'll be out. So then, of course, he lives next door to the farm. So he had to get home, change clothes. And then, here he come through the woods. I'm out there already. I've gotten down. I've walked it off to measure 22 yards with a crossbow. I'm thinking, oh, that's a great kill. But before I got down out of the stand, the turkey had gone still on me. He just kind of flopped around, then he just stopped. And I was like, is he dead or is he just playing possum on me? About 3 minutes later, he just rears up in the air and just flips over one time. And I actually caught a photo of him flipping, got his feet up in the air where he's making his last final attempt. And then he goes still again. And it's like, okay, I think he's done. So I get down, since I'm waiting on my brother to show up. I walk out there and I'm like, okay, look at all these feathers. And I look for my bolt. And of course, I've got a mechanical broadhead on there. I find it, the luminox lit up. And I'm like, okay, wow, that it went all the way through him. He's just a few feet away. I go over and then I'm still like really cautious because I've heard about guys that, grab their bird and it spurs them and flogs them. And like, I don't want any of that. I want this to be a good memory. So I went over, kind of nudged him with my foot. And I'm pretty sure he was gone, that he had expired. So I rolled him over and his belly was completely bald of feathers. There was no feathers left on the bottom side of this turkey. And I'm like, what happened to this bird? Did he wear these off? I asked taxidermist later. He's like, no, when you shot him, as he's flopping across the field, it's just shredding those feathers off of his stomach. I'm like, okay, well, I basically plucked half this bird while he's flopping around the field. So I get a few pictures, what I can do without a photographer there, which is kind of why I wanted my brother to be there. Kind of wrapping my head around the distance, take a picture, from the dead turkey back to the blind, get all the angles I could possibly get on my own. And then he shows up and he's like, I tell him the whole story. He's got to be patient and listen to me while I'm walking through the whole thing. And then he's like, all right, well, let's go ahead and get this bird over here. And I didn't have any to measure the beard with and, picked the turkey up, kind of held it a little bit, said, I think it's at least 20 pounds. And he agreed with me. And then we thought, well, let's get a few photos in here real quick and let's get this bird on off to the processors. So as soon as we got the photos done, and he's a photo nut too, so he's like putting in a hat and he's laying the turkey one way. Let's hang him on a post, and giving me all these tips and pointers around how to be a photographer. And then, of course, we had to check the bird in, so I did that online. And then I called the taxidermist. Are you open? How late are you gonna be open? He's like, yeah, I'll be there. Just bring it on over. It's a 30-minute drive. I was telling him, it's first bird ever. Not sure what to do. He's like, don't worry about it. Just bring me the bird. I'll take care of it for you. But no, it was celebrating the moment. Would have been better with my brother in the stand with me, but knowing that he could experience it from the after point of me killing the bird but not disturbing the scene, I think he was just as excited as I was. And I can guarantee you he was up an hour before me the next morning wanting his chance at that bird be, to get his bird on the wall as well.
And your mom had to be pretty happy as well, I got to imagine, too. You give her a call right away.
Yeah, I gave her a call, and I'm like, Mom, I don't remember what we were talking about before that bird stepped out, but I'm all ears now. And she's like, did you get the bird? I'm like, yeah, I did. She's like, oh, that's great. That's awesome. And then we, of course, quickly moved on to another conversation, because that's how, conversations go with Mom is, hey, I just got a bird. And Mom's never been a real big hunter. So to her, it was like, okay, well, that part's done. I guess, it's over, right? You killed the bird. That's the end of the hunt. That's kind of the beginning of the work. So,
right.
But no, quickly got off the phone with her after making sure she knew everything was good on my end. She could tell I was pretty excited. She is happy for me.
That's awesome. Tammy wants to know, you were up in the blind. Now that you've got your turkey, now think back, you're in your blind. What was the most important thing that you took with you to the blind besides your cosmic brownies?
Yes. I'd like to say I had a cosmic brownie with me, but I had just spent 2.5 hours using the walk behind yard string trimmer down in the bottoms, which is about 600 yards through the woods and down a hill. So by the time I got back to the truck, which key point there, the truck was parked 42 yards from the stand. I parked it in the corner of the field, and I thought, well, I'll just leave it there. So when I got back up the truck about 4:30 or so, I was exhausted. I was hot, sweaty. I had grass clippings and who knows what all over me because I've been mowing. And I just stopped the truck, got a bottle of water there, and put the DR trimmer in the back of the truck, and then walked the 42 yards to the stand, climbed up in the stand and sat down. And fortunately, there was a little bit of a breeze, and I was like, oh, I can sit here and just relax, kind of cool off. I've got 3 hours before, sunset, plenty of time. If a bird comes out, we'll see what happens. I was just basically taking a break. Then Mom called me. But, other than a cosmic brownie, which would have been nice to have at that time, I would say that bottle of water was the key thing that really was important at that time. I mean, that morning when I left the stand at 11 o'clock that morning, I left my crossbow and everything in the blind. I didn't even uncock the crossbow. I just left it sitting loaded in the blind because I knew no one else was going to come around. And it was upstairs. And, I was like, what? I'll come back this evening. If I decide to hunt, I'm ready to go. If not, I'll decock the bow and take it back to the house. So all I had to do was go up there and sit down.
So you mowed and you went back to the truck, and the truck was 42 yards from the blind, and you left the truck, went back, got in the blind, and then killed the bird.
Yeah. I think I sent you one picture of me mowing, and the timestamp on that trail camera, I think, says it was like almost 4 o'clock. That was me 600 yards down in the bottoms mowing still at 4 o'clock. And then I came back up the truck, took a little break in the truck, kind of, gather my thoughts and say, you know what, I think I'm just going to climb up there in that elevated blind and just enjoy the evening. I mean, it's beautiful out. Why not?
Yeah. And so all the commotion and noise didn't bother the bird. I mean, obviously.
No, the bird came up from the ravine behind the blind, which was probably 300 or 400 yards from where I was mowing. I was down for 2.5 hours making all kinds of crazy noise, and evidently that didn't disturb them. And then being on the phone with Mom, having her on speakerphone and talking to her, not knowing the bird was even in the field until he got within 150 yards, didn't seem to bother the bird.
That part I really didn't just get until just now.
Right, exactly. Especially think about when he was putting the string trimmer in the truck.
Yeah.
Monkeying around the truck, the noise he was probably making.
Shutting the tailgate, shutting the doors on the truck.
Right?
Yeah.
And here, you walk 42 yards from that, get into a stand, and a bird comes out, and really, it goes to show you, I think, now how much, you call this the farm now. Is there other agriculture around you as well?
Yeah, I would say to the north, where this turkey was actually headed before he came to the decoys, there's a ravine and then a cornfield. And then the field that I was sitting and watching was a bean field last fall. Those are the two fields that are the closest. The body of water that's closest was completely the opposite direction on the other side of the property line. So, I mean, there was a couple of ag fields there. He was in one. The other one was about 300 or 400 yards north. And I think that's where he was headed because there's big timber to the north of that field, and that's where they roost. So in order for them to get to where I was sitting, they would have had to travel at least probably 700-800 yards. But this one's already in the area. He just happened to be down there, in the ravine for whatever reason, hanging out. And on his way back to the north to where he was going to roost, he decided to take a little detour, and that was the worst mistake he ever made.
And I think what happened, and being in the ag area that you are, the noises probably didn't bother him because he's probably used to.
Maybe used to hearing different noises, yeah.
Right, when you're like up north in the middle of nowhere and you hear that a different odd sound, you'd be like, well, what's that?
Right.
Where he's probably like, oh.
Farmer's doing his thing.
Yeah, so it's like, hey, let me go look over here and see what's happening. But Tammy does say you make it sound effortless, Mark.
I know, and I probably will never duplicate this hunt ever again, which is fine because every hunt's an adventure. But I did so many things wrong, if you want to call it that, from the perspective of the last 3 years of getting up before daylight, slipping into the blind, waiting quietly for that first gobble, and then trying to get him to come off the roost and come to you. I'd never hunted in the evening for him. Honestly, I was just sitting in the blind cooling off. That's why I took the call from Mom. I mean, if I was really serious about it, I probably wouldn't even have taken the call.
So from now on, are you going to take a call from Mom, whether you're deer hunting or turkey hunting?
I'm going to call her, and I'm going to say, you just stay on the phone for a few minutes while I make these few calls, and I'll get my box call out, and I'll just bump that just a little bit. She'll be like, what is that? Don't worry about it. You just keep talking to me.
So now the most important thing in the blind is the call to Mom.
Right? Not only is it...
turkeys is my mom.
Right? It's the mom call.
Not for hire, so.
Yeah. And thinking back, like, on that, like you said, you never hunted in the evening, and that just adds to the, now you've done it, and it's like, okay. And everything you did, like you said, it'll probably never happen that way again.
No.
But it's so awesome, and it's just the best part is you were too busy taking pictures.
I know.
It's coming out.
I mean, that's what I do on the farm every time I go down there is I check trail cameras, I mow, I plant food plots, and I take pictures of wildlife. And it's like it just was an involuntary movement of mine. I just put the call down, picked up the phone, and I'm going to catch him coming in. He went to full strut twice, and each time for about 3 seconds. And I caught him once when he did. And then, I was like, oh, what? I'm supposed to be getting my crossbow and taking a shot at this dude. Pay attention. This moment's going to pass before you know it. But now the decoys, they're DSD decoys, full strut tom and a hen. The thing about the DSD decoys for a full strut tom is when you get them, you don't get a tail fan with them. So last year, I didn't have a tail fan because I never killed a turkey before. So I put the decoys out without the tail fan. And I'll tell you what, it's the game changer is having a tail fan. If you don't have a tail fan on there, it just doesn't look right. And I actually asked David Holder when I was out in Iowa in March for Spring Thunder if he had an extra one. He's like, yeah, I do. And I said, well, I'll buy it off. He's like, nah, you just take it. And it was beaten up. I mean, he'd used it a few times. 2 or 3 feathers were missing out of it. But it did the trick. I just, put that on there. And that's what really is the appeal, is seeing that tom in full strut with that tail fan sticking out there.
Well, I tell you what, that was one of the questions I was going to ask you that was on the chat was, what is one piece of advice that someone gave you that changed your hunting? And it sounds like, the getting a actual fan to put on the decoy was the ticket.
Yeah, so the 2 things that I had in mind, one going into this was I'm going to shoot him in the shiny spot. And it's a controversial thing. There are people that say don't do that. There are others that say, oh, no, that's, you don't want to do that. You want to shoot him in the vitals. You want to shoot him in the head. But I wanted to try shooting him in the shiny spot. And then 2, having that tail fan, made the world of difference, night and day from the response from a 3-year-old tom. Was seeing a turkey in full strut and that tail feathers being the one, the indicator that, hey, I'm here to impress this girl, really did do the trick for me.
That is awesome. I tell you what, we're coming up on our next break. Let's finish up our conversation about your turkey hunting, and then let's get to another form of hunting, and you've been rocking it this year.
All right. We're going to step outside, take our next break. We'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has always dominated the speed category. Now, the most revolutionary cam system ever to hit the market, has perfected the shooting experience. Introducing PSE's Evolve Cam System, featuring extremely high let-off capabilities and the smoothest draw cycle in history. No other cam system has ever delivered this level of total comfort and total control. Experience PSE. Experience performance.
It's okay if you do. It's all right.
Wow. Welcome back, everybody. Next segment. Wow. That took off in a whole different direction during the commercial break.
And I tell you what, folks, if you
Wow.
watch the show on Facebook, you're seeing it all. But if you're listening to the podcast, go back to Facebook or go over to YouTube when it's posted over there and watch the show in between breaks. You just never know what the discussion is or goes to. And then subscribe on YouTube and help us out. But check out the live show itself, because the breaks can be entertaining.
Or at my expense, I guess.
This time it's your expense, right?
Right.
All right, Mark. You've now got the bird. Credit Mom. And now, what have you done with the bird? Have you had some of the bird? Have you cooked it? Where are we at with?
Yeah, so, I don't have any recipes. I can look some up, I'm sure. Probably some friends that have had wild turkey before. But once I took it to taxidermist, he field dressed the whole thing for me. Put it in Ziploc bags, and I had like 15 pounds of, the breast meat and the drumsticks. And he coached me a little bit too, and he's like, hey, you can cut that breast meat up into little chunks and make turkey nuggets. The drumsticks, he said there's a lot of tendons in there, so you might want to slow cook it, get it really, really good where it falls off the bone, and just pick it apart and make sandwiches out of it. Like, okay, those are both great ideas. So I just, I took them back to the house. He recommended that I take the two breasts and separate them and put them in separate bags, because that's a lot of meat to try to thaw out at one time. So I appreciate that. So put them in the freezer, and I have yet to get them back out to try anything. I'm anxious to see what that's like. I've heard that wild turkey is really good.
Do you smoke food?
I had a smoker. The element went out. Just last weekend, we went to town shopping, and I've got my eye on a nice Traeger that I think is probably going to make it into the household here before summer's over.
Well, I tell you what, if you want to add on to that recipe, try smoking the breast meat. Take a breast and smoke it.
Okay.
I had a friend of mine do one of mine when I got a turkey. He smoked it for me, and yeah, it was good. I don't think it left the office. I don't think it made it out of the office. It was good, though.
You shared?
Yeah, well, that was a mistake.
Wow. You didn't share with me, Mark.
It never made it home.
Wow.
Well, I'm open to recipes. If anyone's got any, send them my way. I would love to make a list of recipes, because it's going to take a while to eat all that.
And there's and like I said, with the dark meat in that, slow cooking recipe is probably the best. It's not your butterball, so... and let us know what you come up with and how it is.
Absolutely. I'll be posting pictures of it, I'm sure.
Absolutely, you will.
Turkey nuggets are delish as well.
Right, exactly. So that sounds awesome. Now, let's get on to the other part of the hunting that you've done this year, and you are up to 21 pounds on your hunt of picking up Morel mushrooms.
Another thing that I like to eat, talk about something good to eat. Frying up a few mushrooms is the way to go. This year wasn't the greatest year for me. Started off a little rough. I hunt mostly public ground. When you do, you run into people all the time. So this year, spent about 100 hours. I took a couple weeks off work. I haven't taken 2 weeks in a row off work for 15 years. But I wanted to get out and do some turkey hunting, which success on the first day provided plenty of opportunity for me to go walk the woods. The day I killed my turkey, I actually found 2 mushrooms on the farm that were about 2 inches tall, so I knew kind of where the season was headed. It was just kind of kicking off. So, I usually when I go hunting mushrooms, I go early in the morning when it's still cool out, and I'll walk usually 4 to 6 hours, anywhere from 8 to 10 miles, checking out. I'm a tree hunter, so I look for specific trees. Kind of improves my chances of finding mushrooms versus just scouring the whole countryside looking for them. The only place I have that's private is the farm, and this year it produced 1 pound, so the other 20 pound all came from public land.
Wow. Now,
and the most exciting thing this year was I hadn't taken my wife mushroom hunting in 25 years, and I'd found a place that was flat ground, easy hunting, and I really wanted to get her back into the outdoors and experience the good side of hunting, not the up and down the hills and hollers and spider webs and snakes and all that. So I took her to the spot. She found 22 mushrooms the first hunt we went on.
Wow. And
then I think she found another 16 the second time. A week later we went. And we run into people all the time. We ran into people we knew because we're all from the same small town, and the property happened to be right here in this county. But it was that to me was the most exciting part, was to see my wife enjoying the outdoors with me and finding. And I knew every time she found one, because you'd hear this little giggle or laugh, and I'd be like, "Oh, you found one, didn't you?" Yep. So. Photo ops.
Right, exactly. And just a quick tip from Tom Gensel, he pressure cooked his legs on his turkey.
Pressure cooker, okay.
Right. So, when you're out there walking, is there anything in particular you're looking for? Are you looking for a clump of grass? You're looking for a special tree? Are you looking for something that, obviously, if you've gone year after year to the same spot, do they regrow in the same spot?
Yes. They'll die out eventually. And you have to find new spots. But for me, I'm a tree hunter, so I'm all the time. Doesn't matter what time of year it is. If I'm in the woods, I'm looking at certain trees to say, okay, next mushroom season, this might be a good spot. And I'm using my Onyx app, and I'm dropping a pin saying, come back to this spot. Because I hunt one spot that's a state park that's 3,000 acres. So when you get way back in there, it's kind of hard to remember exactly where you were at. So you drop that pin. And it takes you back to the spot. But I look for certain trees. Elm trees, dead elm trees typically were the best. And then sycamore trees has been my number one producer the last 2 or 3 years. Okay, so I think about 5 to sycamore trees together.
Okay, so another thing besides looking for a certain tree, I noticed you were carrying them in a mesh bag.
Yeah.
Is there a purpose for carrying them in a mesh bag as opposed to a plastic bag or a Ziploc or what?
Right. So when I was a kid, we just used whatever's available. Your T-shirt, Walmart sack, whatever it was. Over the years, as we learned more about the Morel mushroom and the spores that they let off as you are carrying them, by having a mesh bag or something with holes in it, it allows the spores to kind of spread out through as you're carrying them. True or not, doesn't really matter to me. The bags I use, you can buy these online. And there's specific Morel mushroom bags you can buy, and you'll pay $15 to $50 for one, depending on what you want. I'm kind of a cheap guy. I found a different way to do it. If you can find a mosquito head net and turn it upside down, it becomes a great mushroom sack. It'll hold about 3 to 4 pounds of mushrooms. It won't crush them, and it lets them breathe, and they don't sweat. So I think I got my first mosquito head net mushroom bag for like $1.49. Now I've got 20 of them.
And so the mosquito net is, I guess the holes are big enough to let the spores out as you're walking.
Right. Yeah. The way I understand it, you can't see the spores. They're that small. So it's just, having something that's breathable.
Okay.
You put them in a plastic sack and you get home, and if you've had them on your hip or carrying them through the woods, the ones at the bottom aren't probably going to look like mushrooms much. They're probably going to be a little bit of a mush. And the longer season goes, the more fragile the mushroom becomes. So, you just got to be very careful that you don't fall on them. I've done that. Get them caught on a briar, and always check your bag. Especially the mosquito head nets have held up really, really good. I've used the same ones for 5 years. But if you get caught on a briar bush, check the bag and make sure it didn't rip a hole big enough that you end up losing mushrooms along the way. So don't just assume that your bag is going to be intact when you get out of the woods. Check that often. Hopefully you're putting mushrooms in the sack and checking everything done.
And that's one of the things, like you said, checking your equipment as you're walking, which is a good idea. But that's kind of neat to know that you can actually kind of, as you're picking them, replenish the land, I guess, with possible future. Mm-hmm. It's almost like conservation at its finest, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You take, but you're actually giving back by using the proper bag.
I've picked a few before. I'm no expert at it by any stretch of the imagination, but question. So there's a morel on the ground. How do you go about properly picking it? Is there a technique to it? Huh?
You jump on it. That way it doesn't run off and hide.
I mean, do you pinch the base and twist or pull it?
Or do you use your easy cuts?
Right. So mushroom hunting has become an art, I guess. If you go online and look at morels, you can find all kinds of equipment to use. Anything from the bags to a knife, a walking stick with a morel carved in the end of it. I kind of like to use what God gave me, and that's these hands. Mm-hmm. And I intentionally don't trim my thumbnails for about a month prior to mushroom season, so that thumbnail's just a little bit longer, and I just pinch them off. I just reach down, give them a nice little squeeze, and pinch them off right there at the base, right above the dirt.
Okay, so you break them off. You don't just pull it, so you're pulling part of it out of the ground.
Nope, I just pinch it off right there at the dirt because, well, you can eat the dirt, but it just doesn't taste good. So I just pinch them off. Usually I'll cover up the stub, as I call it, with a leaf or something, because I've come across where other people have found mushrooms because I hunt public ground. And as much as I'm excited for someone else to find a mushroom, there's a little bit of disheartening moment of seeing a bunch of stubs in an area where you were hoping to find mushrooms. So I just kind of cover them up so that other people don't have to experience that moment of, they were here, but
he's hiding the stubs.
Yeah, he's hiding the stubs.
Oh, you tricky little devil, you.
So, so have you ever run into other morel hunters out there while you're out there?
Yes. I've run into people that I know even, and they're like, hey, how are you? And there's times if I've been out there an hour or two and I'm doing well and I've got a pretty nice, mosquito head net half full of mushrooms, and I'm not going to say I'm great at hunting them. I mean, I've been hunting them 45 years, but I tend to do okay. I mean, 21 pounds sounds like a lot, but it was a bad season for me. But I'll run into people, and sometimes, and there's kind of a courtesy, an unspoken courtesy, that you see somebody picking a mushroom, you kind of stay out of their space. You stay 50, 75 feet away. I had a gentleman this year watched me for 45 minutes while I hunted this one spot. And then after I was done, he came over and was like, hey, can I see your mushrooms? He just wanted to see what I had found. He had like 15 mushrooms, and I had, about 2 pounds at that time, which at that time was probably about 50 or 60 mushrooms. But he respected the fact that I was in this spot and that he didn't just rush in there and want to help me find mushrooms. It's a moment to allow that person really to explore that area. When they're done, they move on. Then you can go in there and you can give it a final sweep. 3 or 4 times this year, I've had someone say, hey, can I come over and take a look at your bag? But they're always, in today's world, you always want to make sure you make eye contact. You make sure, you let them know you're coming over to talk to them. Don't just walk over or sneak up on them. It probably wouldn't end well.
So they are eyeing up the competition.
Yeah. I talked to a young lady and her husband this year. I had, a pretty nice sack full of them. And they had about a pound of mushrooms between them. And she hollered at me from a distance, said, hey, do you mind if I come over and I just want to look at your mushrooms? And I'm like, yeah, sure, come on over. And, you Google eye a little bit at them and go, wow, those are really nice mushrooms. And then she had one that she was carrying with her, and it was probably 8 inches tall. It was a it was a monster. And I had nothing near that size in my bag. And her husband's like, yeah, she won't put it in the bag. That's kind of her trophy. That's her award for finding the big mushroom. She doesn't want anything to happen to it, so she's carrying it through the woods. But it was a beautiful mushroom. It was absolutely amazing.
It's a booner.
It's a booner.
I'm sure it tasted good, too.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, there's a question. When it comes to different sizes, the bigger they are, do they taste different or better? Or?
For me, they do. I like right after the season starts. I don't like to pick a mushroom if it's an inch or less tall. Mushrooms do grow. There's a discussion out there around whether they pop, and that's the biggest they get, or if they actually grow. They grow, or at least the ones I hunt grow. But I like them between that 3 to 4 inch size. They're still fresh. The bugs haven't really found them yet, and they hold up really well, and you can cut them in half really pretty easy without them falling apart. You get them above 6 inches tall later in the season, because the lifespan of a mushroom is about 15 days. When you get towards the end of the season, I think I sent you a picture of one I found that was orange and already molding, and kind of I picked it, smelled it, and it smelled sour. That tells me do not put this in your bag. But the bigger they get, the more fragile they become. The bugs start working them over. I'd much rather have a 3 or 4 inch mushroom frying in a skillet than I would to have to cut a big one up in about 12 chunks and fry it up individually. I still like the shape of the mushroom when I put it on my, I'll buy hamburger buns and make sandwiches out of, and I like the smaller ones.
Okay.
All right, we're up on our last break. We got a couple more questions about morels, and then we'll have our announcement in the last segment.
All right, we're going to step outside, take a quick break, be right back after this.
Acceleration is part of PSE's DNA. PSE pioneered the speed movement. Now they've developed the vapor category to help you find the most powerful bows on the market to fit you.
High speed equates to intense power and building the momentum you need to be successful. Are you a vapor shooter? Find out at psearchery.com.
All right, welcome back. We're back for our last segment. We're out picking mushrooms.
We are picking up mushrooms.
You got a question?
I got a couple questions. First one is, when you're out walking, I know you're out in the woods. That time of year, are you wearing rubber boots? Are you wearing hikers, tennis shoes? What are you wearing?
I've wore both. I've wore hiking boots, and I've really committed to rubber boots. And because springtime can get wet, you get a good rain. Some of these small creeks will fill up. So when I go hunt mushrooms, there's really not a trail to follow. I just kind of go where I think the best spot might be. Those rubber boots have come in handy. In the morning when the dew's on, those rubber boots come in handy to keep you from getting saturated there. So I'm definitely the rubber boot fan.
Okay. Now, Tammy's never had a Morel mushroom.
What?
And she wants you to best describe the taste and the allure of Morel mushroom.
The word divine in heaven, and then right here. No, so there's a lot of ways to fix mushrooms. You can fix them 9 ways to Sunday if you want. You put them on steak, you put them on pizza. I'm pretty straight up with my mushrooms. I cut them in half. I soak them in salt water to kill any, live critters that might be in there. And then I rinse them off, throw them in some flour. And while I'm throwing them in the flour to kind of get them a coating, I am melting a stick of butter in a skillet. And the key is don't put more in the skillet than the butter will allow you to fry a good coating on. And don't fix more, and this is just my opinion, but don't fix more than one skillet full, because the residual butter that's left in the skillet, when you go do that second batch, that butter is going to burn. And that's going to give them a weird taste, a weird look. They'll turn orange on you. But frying up a mushroom that's just been floured in a butter and getting a crisp on them, I don't know. I'm going to go with it's very, very close to backstrap. It's the flavor's not there, but the taste. If I had to choose between a Morel mushroom sandwich and backstrap, it'd be a tight race. Just because, I don't know, there's something about the crunch of those mushrooms, the texture of that mushroom, and the flavor of that butter. You can't go wrong with butter. And there's different kinds of butter out there. We just used some butter that was called Kerrygold. And oh my, what a difference the butter made in that taste and that texture. They just fried up so much. Afterwards, you'll have a sandwich or two, and then you'll have some leftover on the plate. And it's just, you'll sit there and just, like popcorn, just eat them.
Now, you're talking butter, not margarine. It's got to be butter.
Butter, yeah.
Yeah, we had some this week. My son, he brought some home from his girlfriend's, and he cooked them up, and I ate them.
Right?
So I kind of liken it to almost, I wouldn't say, almost like an almondy type taste to them. Am I right? Yeah. Am I right in saying that, you think? More like a nut, almost like a...
Yeah, it doesn't have a strong meat flavor to it, but it doesn't have a vegetable flavor to it either. But It's kind of, I don't know.
You just gotta have it. You know what? It sounds like to me. I've had them once, I think, but it sounds to me it's like you got to have somebody that knows how to prepare them.
Yep.
Prepare them for you.
Yeah.
Because for what you just described, if you kind of mess up one of those steps to get to the end product, it'll be. And it doesn't sound like it takes much to mess them up.
No, and I've done them in cornmeal too, but I'm not a big cornmeal fan. Me, it's just straight flour and butter. It's pretty simple. 15 minutes, they're done. Because just when you're frying them up, the smell is enough to make you just wish you could reach in there and grab one out of the skillet. So, from the time you put them in there and take them out and you're done. I'd like to try them in the air fryer one time, but we haven't quite got there yet.
They don't make it to the air fryer.
No.
Or when you're doing the flour, do you put them in a wash?
No, I tried that too with an egg wash.
Yeah.
And I made more of a mess than anything. And what I do is I get a small plastic Tupperware bowl. I'll put a cup of flour in there, and then as I'm rinsing them off, I'll give them a little gentle squeeze and to get the rest of the water out of them. I'll just toss them in that bowl, and I'll put the lid on, and then I just give them the old shake.
Give them a shake, gotcha.
And then just pick them out, throw them right in the melted butter. Now I wish I had some mushrooms left.
Now you said a sandwich. Do you put anything else on the sandwich besides the mushrooms?
No.
Okay, so it's just bread and mushrooms.
Yeah, it's just a hamburger bun.
Okay.
My wife, this year we had hot dog buns too, and sometimes you put them on a hamburger bun, they stack up. They don't stack very well. They'll start falling over. And I like to kind of give you a good thick layer of mushrooms in between those two hamburger patties or buns. So my wife got a hot dog bun out and loaded that dude up, and that worked out really well too, because you could just put them down in that crease. So for me, there's something between that bread texture and the mushroom texture that makes it just perfect.
Just pops, eh?
I wonder if you were to take the bread and put it, like as soon as you take the mushrooms out and just put it in the pan with the butter real quick and toast it.
Yeah.
With that butter, if that would add a little to it.
It would. I'm just not that patient.
Okay.
There he goes. He's not that patient. A question. You've been out all spring. Have you run into any ticks?
Yes. Depending on where you hunt. Down at the farm, I come out of the woods one day and I think I had 5 ticks crawling on it. Now, I do spray down with some anti-tick spray or whatever you want to call it.
Permethrin?
I think it started with a P, yeah.
Yeah, permethrin.
It's permethrin.
Yellow can, aerosol, and I just sprayed that on real good. That kept a lot of them off of me. I've been to the one patch 5 different times this year and never came out with a tick on me.
Okay.
So ticks, depending on geographic, good, bad. I've seen some snakes, seen box turtles. One day I saw 6 box turtles. That was quite a few box turtles. But no, the snakes this year, I saw hognose and a few black snakes and garden snake, which snakes don't bother me much. As long as I see them before I'm right on top of them. The spider webs is what can get you. The later the season gets, the more spider webs are out there, and you'll take one right to the face, and then you'll do that dance trying to get that off of you.
Now, what was the bush you ran into in Indiana?
Stinging nettles.
Do you run into those?
Once this year, I reached down to pick a mushroom, and there was some of those growing right there, and it got the back of my hand, and I spent the next hour scratching.
Yeah, I call them, they're of the devil.
Yeah.
We got them down at the lease that I was on there in Indiana. It's got them in different patches, and I found out what they were after I got into them.
No one told you, huh?
They told me that they were there, but I didn't know what they looked like or anything, and I'm just traipsing off through them, and they were just about armpit high, So I got a good dose of them.
Nice guys.
You're right.
I guess you have to experience it, then you get the full effect of what they are.
Yeah,
right?
especially when you start to sweat and it starts stinging, and you finally figure out why they call them stinging nettles.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that does not sound enjoyable at all.
No, it's not. Not at all.
Anything else you want to talk about, turkey or shrooms, to top off your season, which sounds like you said because it was so warm, you think mushroom season is over?
For down here, you might be able to find a few mushrooms, but the woods is so overgrown that you're going to have to be right on top of them to find them. And to me, that's not exciting to have to wade through the grass and the stinging nettles to find a mushroom that potentially could be good or bad because the season's pretty much at an end. I would give one tip to anyone that's trying to find mushrooms: hunt the south-facing slopes first because they warm up sooner.
Okay.
Doesn't guarantee you're always going to find mushrooms, but your best chance is to hunt those south-facing slopes first.
Okay.
And Tom Gensel says ticks were bad on the warm days.
Yeah, I bet. Hey, well, you sent me some pictures. I got 4 of them here, and to me, it almost looks like an eagle nest. Did you run across an eagle's nest?
I did. So in one of the counties north of me, as a state park, Prophetstown State Park, and they usually have a honey hole for mushrooms up there, and this year somebody else had it before me. I usually find like 5 pounds of mushrooms in there, and I found 1 mushroom. I walked 10 miles that day, and I came across this eagle's nest. I could see it across the big field, and it was in a big sycamore tree. So I worked my way over to it, and you can actually walk right up to the base of this tree and look up. The eagle was in the nest up to the point that it saw me, and then it flew off and came back and landed on another limb. But that nest, I mean, it was bigger than the bed of my truck. It was huge. Wow. It just massive.
Yeah, just
very impressive.
Just the one eagle that you saw?
Just the one. I don't know if there had any young ones in the nest or not, but it would fly off and fly back and land in the limb. I wanted to walk up under the tree because I'd never actually gotten up under a tree just to see, do they drop off, the side of the nest? Do they drop off like the bones of any fish or anything that they've eaten? I've always heard that the eagles will go off to the side to use the bathroom off of one side of the nest. And sure enough, as I'm walking up this tree, the green carpet turned white. There was just little speckles everywhere. And I knew then where I was standing in the bathroom, basically underneath this nest.
You're in the landing zone.
Yeah. So quickly moved over to a limb and tried to hide myself as much as I could, which trying to defeat the eagle eye is not an easy thing to do.
Right.
And I just stood there as motionless as I could, and I could see the shadow come over the top of me every now and then of the eagle flying around. And it did end up landing in a tree off to the side, but any movement I made, it left the area quickly.
Do you have a lot of eagles in your area down there?
Where I live, backside my subdivision, there's a really big creek called Sugar Creek, and the eagles will fly up and down it. So we'll see them flying over the neighborhood. I've counted, I think, 6 at one time, and you'll hear them when we're out. We went for a walk last night. I didn't hear any eagles, but there was a lilac bush that smelled really strong. But and I'm not a big fan of lilacs, but no, there's eagles that fly up and down through here. They've really come back really strong in our area here in this part of Indiana. So it's not uncommon to see one in a field, feeding on a carcass, or just flying over the subdivision.
Yeah, we're starting to see a lot more of them. Actually, I saw one last weekend on Lake St. Clair.
Yep,
they're at Harson's Island. So it's nice. It's nice to see them around. So
absolutely, it's always good.
So we're getting here close to the end of the show. I want before we do anything though. I talked to you about this, Danny, before the show, and I want to make a point of this because I saw a picture today. We went out kayaking on St. Clair River last weekend. And it was 85 degrees, but we still wore our wetsuits because the water is so cold. There's a photo today that surfaced, no pun intended, of a guy on a sit-on kayak in shorts, no shirt, no PFD in Lake Huron. And when I was on the river, I stuck my hand in the water, and in 15 seconds, my hand hurt so bad from the cold. It was physical pain I couldn't take anymore, and I had to take it out. So if you're out there in a boat, wear your PFD. If you're out there in a kayak, for goodness sakes, make sure you're dressed for the water. Wear a wetsuit, wear a dry suit, stay close to shore, which is what we did, just in case. Because like Danny, you said, nobody plans to tip over.
Nobody plans to tip over, and nobody says, hey, I'm going to go to do whatever I'm doing for the last time.
Yeah.
So don't make it happen.
Yeah.
Because that's why they call it accidents.
Well, in temperatures like that in the water, I think the water temps right now are 45, 50 degrees. And hypothermia sets in, I think they said, in exhaustion in like 30 minutes.
And that water moves at that point. So
Yep.
you're going to have to do some swimming to get to anything.
Yeah.
So
make sure you take a marine radio with you if you're on big water. Take the gear that you should have when you're out on the water. And don't dress for the air temp, dress for the water temp. So that's my public service announcement for the day.
That's your safety tip of the week.
There you go. So,
all right. Well, anyways, congratulations, Mark. Good season on shroom hunting and getting your first turkey.
Thank you.
And our announcement that we want to announce is, you're right, Tammy, those are pretty rough currents up there. We do have an announcement at the end of the show. Last week we had a gentleman on, Adam Wynn, a young guy just south of us here at the cabin. We're going to announce that he is joining the pro staff of Up North Journal. So we have him aboard. Mark and now Adam Wynn are now on the pro staff of Up North Journal with us, so stay tuned for more from Adam as he does his fishing and hunting. I think he's still turkey hunting.
Yes, he is.
So,
they've still got about 2 weeks left here.
Yep,
Michigan.
end of the month.
Yep,
so congratulations to him. Welcome aboard.
So you got a partner in crime now, Mark.
That's a good thing.
So we got Michigan covered, and we got you done in Indiana. So we expect some more good reports. And he is into ice fishing. So when you're ready to do some ice fishing, come on up and we'll get you on the ice.
Yeah, I've never ice fished, so that would be a great opportunity to expose myself to a moment of something different than what I'm used to. I'm not sure I'm ready for fire on the ice. But
we'll build a fire on the ice. We'll keep you toasty warm.
And Mark, we announced Adam on the team. We're going to give you the last shout out. Would you like to give us an update at Raised at Full Draw, how they're doing? Do you know any information on that?
Yeah, so I appreciate that. Raised at Full Draw is a nonprofit organization based out of Iowa, and it's a youth kids camp, 3-day camp. Camps are going to be starting here real soon. So we're always trying to drum up support to help get these kids to camp and to try to get kids to camp that may not have the funds to go. It costs $250 for a kid to go to a 3-day archery camp to learn about how to shoot a bow, get certified to shoot a bow, and to learn, first aid, how to climb a deer stand safely, wear your safety harness and all that stuff. So my wife and I have even put a Facebook challenge out there, and that if someone will donate $100 to sponsor a kid, my wife and I will cover the other $150 to get a kid to camp. Because what happens is typically a sibling goes, the oldest sibling goes, they experience camp, and then they come back and tell their younger siblings and they want to go. Well, then all of a sudden the parents are like, well, that's $250 a head. I'm not sure I can afford to chunk out that kind of money for them. We're here to help bridge that gap. And we want kids to be able to get back out in the outdoors, experience something that's fun. All they got to do, sign up for camp, bring a sleeping bag and a tent. If you don't have a tent, they'll provide you one. And 3 days of just absolute, they'll feed you, they'll teach you things, purification of water, everything. It's an event that after 3 days, the kids have a memory that they will tell all their friends and family about forever. And then for those kids to go out and actually experience hunting with a bow and harvest their first animal. And then send those pictures back to say, hey, look, thank you for teaching me how to do this. So, this is the next generation of our outdoorsmen and outdoors women. So raisedatfulldraw.com is where you can go, check it out. We're always looking for sponsors to help support this year in and year out, to cover the cost of the equipment, the food, and just the experience for the kids. It's really about the kids. So, if anything, just do it for the kids. If you want to go to my Facebook page, you'll see the post if you scroll down where we're doing the competition. If you'll give 100, we'll match it. Last year, we were able to send 43 kids to camp that probably wouldn't have got to go to camp had it not been for the generosity of several people. And we felt blessed to be able to do that, and we're going to do it again this year.
Now, they've got, you mentioned Iowa. Don't they have camps, a couple different camps are in different locations as well? We got one in Michigan, right?
We have 6 camps, I think, now. So we have Michigan, and we have Iowa, Wisconsin. Missouri is the first one. We have one in Montana, and I think we have one in Nebraska.
Okay.
We're trying to get one in Indiana. We want to get them in all 50 states if we can. Right now, Donnice, who's in charge of this, she drives the truck and pulls the trailer to all these locations. Mm-hmm. So starting in June until August, she's on the road hauling all this equipment, setting it up, and then volunteer. She's the only paid employee. Everyone else is a volunteer at these camps. It's a great experience for the volunteers to get engaged as well. Anything that you can do in camp, we got a job for it, whether it's pick up trash, mow, set up, take down. Experiencing that, seeing that experience from the kids' point of view, seeing them learn and grow. So, it's a busy time. I think Donnice drove almost 5,000 miles last year, hauling that trailer around. But it's just having that passion to get the kids engaged. But yeah, we are in multiple states. We will continue to grow this, and hopefully we'll be able to share this experience with a lot more kids.
Awesome.
Do you have a number you're trying to reach for the amount of kids that you're sending?
Personal amount would be at least 20. Last year, I think I came out of the gate looking to sponsor like 10, and we ended up getting so many requests in a two-week period that we ended up sponsoring all the requests, 43 kids. Now, there were some guys and girls that would say, okay, I'll give you $100, and we'd sponsor one kid. There was others that got their business to join in, and they would give 1,000, and we're like, okay, that's fine, we can match that. And getting your business involved, getting them engaged, really helping support. If you're passionate about the outdoors, if you're passionate about seeing kids put those game controllers down, get off the couch, get out of the house, these are opportunities that we're trying to provide for those kids. And year after year, I think, you have to be 12 to start, but and then you can go to like 3 or 4 years in a row.
Okay.
And every year you build relationships and friendships and networking with other like-minded kids that might become lifelong friends and lifelong hunting partners across all these dates. So it's just a great opportunity, and that's why my wife and I, we really support this because of that.
That's awesome. Go ahead and share that over on the page when you get a chance. Let's help Mark get to the number. Let's try to beat last year's number.
Yeah, 43 is what we hit last year.
Do you have a deadline?
I would say deadline, camps are going to start here soon, but they're always building up for other camps.
Okay.
So I would say not really. I mean, next 30, 45 days.
All right. Let's help you push it, and we'll share that over on the page, and we'll push it and see how many kids we can send. UNJ can help send to camp.
They'll greatly appreciate it. I guarantee you that.
Tip of the hat to you, my man.
Absolutely.
That's good work right there. All right. So, we're here to the end of the show. Next week, we have anything lined up?
We're working on something. We don't know if we'll have something. So we'll go with that.
And if not, you'll see Danny and my smiling face here.
That's right.
So I know we got tack coming up here real quick.
We got tack. We got.
If anybody needs to get their bow tuned before tack, or actually if you're just going out to 3D stuff, make sure you stop over at Sunrise Archery.
See Derek and the gang over there.
Let them tune you up and check out. If you're looking for new gear, make sure you get down there and check them out as well.
All right.
That it?
That's it.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for us this week. We'll be back again next Wednesday night, same time, right here at Up North Journal Facebook page. You all take care. Have a great night.
This episode was brought to you by PSC Archery,
Deer Camp Coffee,
Buck Baits,
JPO Game Calls,
The Island Armory,
Hacker Max,
Sunrise Archery,
and C3 Better the Hunt Technology.
Thanks for listening, and join us again here next week. Until then, remember, as we always like to say, if you're out on the water or in the woods, shoot straight and be safe until next week on the Up North Journal.